And then things seemed to die down until Monday night. And then the ripple effect, I'd say, really kicked in. That's when former player Akeem Alou, who was taken 56th in the 07 draft by the Blackhawks, tweeted a series of what I'd call stunning tweets. For a little background, Alou was born in Nigeria to a Nigerian dad and a Ukrainian mom before moving to Canada and settled in the Toronto area when he was 7. That's a long way of saying he's a black kid. And here's what he tweeted. Not very surprising, the things that we're hearing about Babcock. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Same sort of deal with his protege in YYC, which is the airport code for Calgary. He dropped the N-bomb several times toward me in the dressing room in my rookie year because he didn't like my choice of music. First one to admit I rebelled against him, wouldn't you? And instead of remedying the situation, he wrote a letter to John McDonough and Stan Bowman to have me sent down to the East Coast League. 20-year-old on pace for 20 goals in his first pro season with 0 special teams time, off to a great start in his pro career. He then spoke to TSN's Frank Saravelli about the incident. He elaborated on it. Lou said Peters made the remarks when he was playing for the AHL's Rockford Ice Hogs in the dressing room before a morning skate. The 20-year-old Lou was controlling the team's music. He said that Peters walked in before a pregame skate and said, "Hey, Akeem, I'm sick of you playing that N-bomb shit." He said, "I'm sick of hearing this N-bomb fucks other N-bombs in the ass stuff." He then walked out like nothing ever happened. You could hear a pin drop on the room. Everything went dead silent. I just sat down in my stall, didn't say a word. He said Captain Jake Dowell confronted Peters about the incident in the coach's room. Dowell declined to comment to Saravelli. And then when Alou had the meeting with Peters, he didn't bring it up because, like you just said, there's a power dynamic. He's 20 years old. He's not going to sit here and yell about it. And Peters really doubled down. He said, I'm just sick of this N-bomb shit. It's every day. From now on, we need to play different music. Just completely oblivious to what he's saying. And it kind of buried Alou from there. And, you got to understand how a guy doesn't want to speak up in that spot. So, I mean, if it's found to be true, and like I said, it was corroborated by 2 other teammates on the team who said it did happen. So it certainly seems like it did happen. The Flames are investigating it right now. They held Peters out of practice on Tuesday. He's not coaching the Flames on Wednesday. I think we know how this is going to play out, but it's ugly. Let's go to you first on this one.
So we have the 2 people that have said that it's true. If that's the case and it's true, get them out. Done. See you, buddy. See you later. You ain't coaching in the NHL anymore. You have no right to coach in the NHL anymore. That is like beyond. We're talking you cannot compare Mike Babcock and this guy if this is true. All right. There's one complete difference is the racism, and to say that to a kid in front of his teammates, no matter where you say it to him, it's just like, if that is the case, see you later. What's weird to me, and it kind of goes into what I'm saying about the culture and having people, people keep things quiet in the NHL, pro sports, I'm sure, but in the NHL, it's just that's how it goes. Well, only 2 teammates. It's surprising. Where are the rest of the teammates? Like, it's just odd to me that you haven't even heard other people say, yeah, it is true. And I'm not blaming any of those guys who've been asked, and I'm sure people have. And you named one guy. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. You just said it.
Jake Dowell.
So he declined not to comment? Well,
he declined to comment to Saravelli, but he said he would cooperate in any investigation conducted by the NHL the Flames.
And I'm not since 2 people had already admitted hearing it. Maybe he heard that. Some people they just like I don't know. I guess some people might be like, "Oh, you're just a bigger part of the problem if you're holding it in." Whereas it goes back to, maybe those guys are scared that they're fucking going to get buried because of it. And they feel like a rat where I don't mind the approach. If there's an actual investigation being done by the league, he'd be glad to sit down in a room and talk to somebody behind the scenes rather than releasing it on social media, which that seems like a fairly responsible way to handle it.
I completely agree. I didn't actually know about that, but I'm more saying that, I guess, Biz, your point of there's 2 guys out there, so other guys are like whatever, but it goes into what I'm saying, that people keep things quiet, and it's always been that way. And the issue is that with this situation, right? Like, I understand completely. There was a report out there that he was fired. Well, then Brad Treliving, he addressed the media, and you could tell, listen, you couldn't fire him right away. This entire investigation going on, it has to be done, right? You can't just – I think that it makes total sense to let's just get the entire story out, not in the open, but at least where we're listening to it. The league knows, the team knows, everyone's interviewed, then we make the decision. But it sounds like it's true. And we're recording Wednesday at 3:39 p.m. Eastern. Who knows if he's fired tonight? If it is true, he's gone. Do you agree with that?
Hope that's not too early for some of you all.
100%. So one of the arguments being made by some people is, oh, well, it was 10 years ago. Like, at what point do you – well, listen, if 10 years ago he would have said it to him and then maybe been like, fuck, or maybe Akeem would have went in the office and mentioned how much it bothered him, and then Bill would have been like, fuck, dude, you know what? It was just an ignorant thing, and it was stupid for me to say. I'm sorry. Like, please forgive me. That it would have been addressed then. And then I would be like, well, guys, there was already discussion. There was some time for reflection. It seems like he would have, apologized then. Even if he would have still got fired in today's age because of it, I wouldn't be shocked. But don't fucking tell me, it was 10 years ago. Fuck you. That guy wasn't sorry for what he said. He fucking doubled down in the office, apparently. And that's the story that came out. Akeem said he went in the room and he fucking doubled down on it. So no, you don't deserve to coach in the National Hockey League. And we go back to the Babcock thing. No, I don't think it's anywhere close either. What's even more shocking is that, given what happened 10 years ago, now fast forward to the other things that came out, and now it's like the Babcock thing. Well, it's not just one thing. There's a big chunk here now. There's more stories coming out where there's some fucking anger issues there. There's a little bit of evil where, this guy needs to take a step back. He shouldn't be in a leadership position, and this guy needs to go talk to some people about some of the issues he has up top in his head, because it obviously needs some fixings. And RA, you can kind of chime in as to what I'm talking about regarding the Nolan stuff. Actually, go ahead, Whit. Sorry.
Well, no, my brain's all over the place because there's so many different parts of this entire story. So if we're flip-flopping here, I apologize. I'm a little out of it. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. We're hosting. So listen, one thing I want to make clear, at least in my opinion, with all of this, is that a lot of these coaches that were complete pricks back in the day, that's how the game was. And I'm not blaming those guys for being assholes. Dude, you wanted to coach like that, you could be an asshole back then. Guys ended up making it to the NHL because of a lot of people. Yeah, were there people buried? Well, that was the game. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting here now like, I can't believe I was talked to like that by a coach. Like, coaches can yell at you. Coaches can be pricks. We're not saying that. But you have to have respect for guys. You can be an asshole coach, and you can be someone who thinks that that's going to work and that's going to be your style, and it's going away, but there's still some of them out there, especially coaching kids. You can think that that's going to be your style, but if you respect the guys, then so be it, right? If you're, like, actually doing things behind people's back and, like, a horrible person, you have no place, and that's completely different than a coach who was an asshole and expected a lot of our players, but you know what? He did respect you off the ice, and he showed you that respect. Well, that's fine then. So there's a huge difference between old school coaches that did it that way and guys like Mike Babcock and Peters, who are just complete scumbags, it seems like.
And we've heard a few stories about Brian Burke on this podcast specifically. And RA, I'll let you talk about the Nolan thing, whereas he's got a lot of old school views. But do you remember when a coin came on and said, listen, things weren't working out there, and there was obviously a conflict? And Brian Burke came down and said, hey, listen, like, I don't think things are going to work out here. We're going to try to accommodate you as best as possible. Like, that's the type of stuff where there's a difference. I get Brian Burke's a bit like of a, hard and old school, but he's still treating guys with respect and not fucking guys over because it's not working out where you are. If you're a coach, yeah, there's probably going to be plenty of players you don't agree with. Maybe they see their game in one way and you see it in another fashion, and they don't want to listen to you because they're a little bit of stubborn, and there's a bit of a rift going on. And yeah, guys aren't going to like each other. Fucking try to do your best to get them out of the organization and just move on, man. Not everyone's going to like each other. There's going to be creative conflict. And RA, we could talk about that, the Nolan stuff, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Yeah, no, although just for 1 second on him, I think he's empowered, and he said he decided to speak out to hold Peters accountable because he said, quote, it's tough to sit here while he just keeps climbing the ranks. After that incident, I got zero opportunity. I've made peace with it. I just hope he's honest and admits what happened. And he even did say, Biz, if he just apologized to me that day, fine, I would have moved on. But, like you said, he decided to double down and continue to use the racist word. So it just sucks because who knows what kind of career this kid would have had. But that's not the least of it. Again, I said this is kind of a ripple effect thing. And it kind of got worse for Peters. Then on Tuesday, Czech player Michael Jordan, not number 23 in the Bulls, He also shared his experiences with Bill Peters on Twitter. He said, quote, "Never wish anything bad to the person, but you get what you deserve, Bill. After years making it to the NHL, had experience with the worst coach ever by far, kicking me and punching other players to the head during the game, then pretending like nothing happened. Couldn't believe my eyes that what can happen in the best league. Happy that I don't have to go through that stuff on a daily basis anymore." And then Mark Armstrong, who's a reporter in Raleigh, he tweeted that a bunch of the players in the leadership group at the time and other staff members went to Ron Francis, who was the then GM, made their concerns known. The reporter said no change was made. I believe he was alluding to a coaching change. But today, Sarah Sivian in The Athletic, she got some good dish. And she said a member of the 15-16 Hurricanes told The Athletic that John Michael Lyles, Justin Falk, Ron Hainsey, and others confronted Peters in his office, and he apologized, but ... And then Rod Brindamore, he came out today and said that he was proud the way the players and staff acted and proud the way management acted because basically none of that shit happened afterwards. In other words, I think he was saying management spoke to Peters, no one else got kicked or punched. But also he's in a tough position too because he's coaching the team. He's friends with a lot of guys, so he probably doesn't want to throw anybody on the bus. He just seemed like he wanted to talk about today's game. And then as far as the three Hurricanes who played under Peters, they were available for comment. Jordan Stahl, Jacob Slavin, and Brett Pesce, neither one of them really wanted to talk about it at all. They just kind of wanted to move on. So Peters fell out of favor with a number of Hurricane staff and players during his tenure because of the incident. And his failure to name Justin Williams captain when he came back to Carolina, that was supposed to be the plan. He didn't go through with it. The Athletic reached out to Williams for comment. They couldn't get in touch with him, or he declined to comment rather. So it just feels like this is might be a cultural change here, boys. Like, guys are going to speak out whether they're playing or not. And, this old school asshole kind of coach, it may go the way of the dinosaur here. And that might not be a bad thing when you hear these kinds of stories. And we've heard guys talking about Mark Crawford kicking guys. I know we kind of laughed about it. It was 25 years ago, but I was kind of horrified. I'm like, coaches actually fucking kick guys on the bench? Like, I didn't know that shit went on. So it's going to be, which way does hockey go off the here, Biz, I think is the big question.
And part of me, as I said before, I sympathize for them because obviously they're just not right. Like, something's off for the fact that they're acting that way. I don't know if it was a case of they were treated like that, so they feel like that's the way it's got to be, or, combine that with the pressures of coaching and the pressure to win and media and pile that all on where it just maybe takes over you and possesses you in order to fucking do this stuff. It makes you go crazy maybe, right? Because we've never been in that situation where there's that much pressure on us. Maybe more so not me, Whit, maybe you because of the type of money you were making and the pressures that you maybe felt in Edmonton. But it's just, if you're not able to handle it at that level and these types of things are happening, which are clearly offside, you just need to take a step back and you just need to get help on a personal life level. And listen, these guys have plenty of money in order to go get that help they need in order to fix these things. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. It's a part of where I just feel I don't feel sorry for them like I feel sorry for how Akeem Alou had to deal with it. I feel sorry for them where I'm like, fuck, dude, you're a bit of a broken human being. You need to figure some shit out.
It's such a power thing. It's just, you just have all the power over everyone and you take complete advantage of it. And there has to be other coaches shaking in their boots about guys coming out. And in the end, there'll be stories that come out that you're like, I shouldn't say, who knows what's going to happen moving forward. Some stories that come out may sound like horrific, but I'm just going back to a time of when Terrian coaches the Flyers. I've told funny stories because that's just how it was. I mean, he was fucking abusing us sometimes, just giving it to me in Army. But he got us to the NHL. It's like that's how things were. But when you're talking about things like Babcock and then the racism's even worse, that's just on a different level. So I know I'm going around in a circle, but it's crazy to think that the whole thing could be changing and the entire way that coaches talk and treat their teams might be different in the next few coming years. One thing we haven't mentioned yet was Paul Maurice's comments. Now, if you guys could go online and read them, it was kind of a long paragraph, right? RA, we're not going to read it.
Yeah, he was basically saying that, he comes from that old school. He started coaching back in the 90s and he's had to adapt. And he mentioned a story about a year and a half ago, Wheeler coming up to him and saying, "Hey man, just treat the guy fucking nice. I know you don't like him. And he said that really stuck with him. It was just like, just having a little bit of empathy for people instead of just being 100% of a dick all the time. And he seems like a guy who's certainly changed with the times and other guys from that old school.
And what's so crazy, is the fact that like Biz, you're 100% right. Something is so off all right, well, I need this guy to perform. The better he performs, the easier it'll be for us to win. Then my job is safer. Okay, well, what's the best way to get him to perform? Call him a pussy and fucking shit on him every single turnover and rip on him and call out anything in his life that you can think of? Or, hey, buddy, how you doing? What's going on today? What's going on away from the rink? It's like life 101. Just you think somebody's going to do better the worse you treat them? How stupid are you?
And remember this, a lot of you hockey fans listening, this is a small group of individuals, okay? This doesn't
I got to go into this later.
This doesn't represent hockey. I've played for a lot of coaches. I've rarely seen any type of issues like this. I played for Tarian. Yes, did he have us on our toes? Did he he gave it to us pretty good. He never crossed that line with me. He may have with others, never with me, so that's my experience. I told this story on Vancouver radio this morning. I played for Dave Tippett in the NHL, okay? I was more of a healthy scratch than games played with my time with the Arizona Coyotes. Every single time I was a healthy scratch, after pregame skate, he would come up to me, he'd tap me on the shin pad, go, Beast, he's like, I don't think they're playing their tough guy, and I think our fourth line's going pretty good right now, and I kind of need this guy here in case we get a little bit of penalty trouble, and I'm like, dude, I'm a fucking peasant. Like, you don't have to come over and make me feel like it was a tough decision.
You felt better about yourself, dude.
But I felt like I was just as much as part of the team as Shane Doan was. And to me that's my experience. Okay. And I bet you there's 30 other coaches or 25 other coaches in the league that are probably like that with their players and player coaches and genuinely good people. Cause he was worried about how I was going to feel inside about the fact that, I wasn't going to be in the lineup. And like I said, I didn't need it every time, but that's how good of a human was. And that's why I think that we got the most out of our teams when we were in Phoenix, was just because of how he did it, and how he made everyone feel like they were a part of it. And he kept that locker room tight. He wasn't trying to turn guys against each other. Everything he had an issue with, he would have came in the locker room and he would have pointed at you and said, I fucking need more from you. What the fuck is that? You're letting us down right now. And that's how it should be.
That's real life.
That's real life, baby.
That is how it should be.
Now in everyday society, I talk to people who work in office buildings where it's like, you got to call HR in. You got to tell them that they fucked up again for the fourth time doing the exact same thing. Whereas, no, that's way too soft, and that's why shit ain't getting done. There's definitely a line, and I'm okay with guys being held accountable. But as I was saying about Tip and these other guys, plenty of good to go around. The whole people who want to point their finger at the entire industry, fuck you.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to say, and it's about. I had a great conversation. My mom was over the house. This was just like the other day, or week or so ago. I had a pen. My mom hit the pen. Great conversation. We're sitting there and we ended up talking about an athlete. I don't remember who it was. It was a football player who's getting ripped on. It might have been Jared Goff. There was a radio show, like, how you can watch like Felger and Maz on TV, all right?
Yeah.
So it was on TV, just like in the background. We're in the kitchen. She's like, that guy, wow, they say that guy's awful. Start going into, it was when I was not on social media. Because I was then telling her, yeah, it's like just so negative now. That's all you hear about is you hear about the bad things. Every walk of life, you hear about the news. It has all bad stories for the most part. That's just what you hear about. Well, hockey's no different. I mean, there's bad people in every aspect, every walk of life. But in my mind, and that's what me and my mom were saying, there's way more good people. And I'm talking in every aspect, and everywhere you look in the world, there's way more good than bad. You hear about the bad. Well, hockey's no different. You know how many amazing people have created hockey and where it's at now? The people that are closest to me in my life that I consider like family, they're all through hockey. And it's to try to bring down an entire sport because a couple bad apples. Well, it's no different than everywhere you look. You're always going to run into bad people, but there's so many more good people than bad. And so for hockey to get called out, and what's unfortunate is it's on the main screen and you see it on the main thing on Twitter now because of something like this. Well, that's what sucks. But people need to understand that this game's full of incredible people who do stuff for others. You learn the game, you learn a team game where you need to rely on everyone, and it's different than every other sport. Basketball is very small. Football is too big. It's hockey. Hockey is such a family, and so many guys after the game stay close with the brothers they played hockey with. And so I just hate the fact that people try saying it's this awful sport. Look at this toxic culture they have. Fuck off. It's a great sport with great people. You got some dickheads running it like everywhere. So that's me just saying enough. It's an awesome sport that does great things for a lot of people.
And I think, tweets like this can serve as a disinfectant for that toxicity. I mean, this, to me, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I know what you mentioned, the Me Too thing, and it's the same thing at play. It's a power dynamic. It's like you're taking advantage of people under you. They're not going to complain because then you're going to fuck with their career. There are a lot of similarities. I think we'll see a lot more complaints about coaches, and they're probably going to run the gamut. Some of them are going to be probably awful, and some of them might be like, okay, buddy, you had to skate a couple extra times, but the thing is, they all can't be John Cooper, but I think we might start seeing more coaches with his style because he seems to do it good. He seems to have that blend of just working with these young kids very good, not being too much of an asshole. All his players like him, but he seems to be like the model coach right now.
Well, too, Sheldon Keefe, you're seeing in Toronto, they're playing like music during practice. It's a totally different vibe everywhere, and maybe that's what will start going on. It's just getting with the times a little bit more, but there'll definitely be more to come. I know.
You know what I think is going to happen? Sure, I think less and less of these coaches are going to start being recycled. Another guy who I think should get a tip of the cap too is Torts. I feel like he's adapted. I mean, he was extremely old school, and I remember John Scott coming on and saying he didn't necessarily have the best experience with him in New York. When he got there, he was like, "I don't even know why we picked you up," and just like, what? Like, what? Yeah, welcome to the fucking family, I guess, right? But I feel like he's done a better job lately of being a little bit softer and coming off of his old school stance. So some of these coaches have adapted. Paul Maurice, we just talked about, good for him. And I think that's him being like, hey, I've fucked up. I've handled it the wrong way in the past. I'm adapting. We all make mistakes. So huge difference in the moral compass. And I think every situation needs to be assessed differently.
And there was one other aspect to the Alou story. I guess when he came to the minor pros, he already had a reputation simply because he didn't want to get hazed. Back when he was in juniors, they wanted him to get in the bathroom with like 4 other players naked for a bus ride. He was like, fuck, I'm not doing this. So because he didn't want to get hazed and be naked in a fucking 3-foot bathroom, they kind of labeled him as a malcontent, and that kind of followed him. And it's like, dude, can you blame him? I mean, that shit's, I didn't play on junior teams. That shit just weirds me the fuck out when they make you do that shit.
I have no idea what happened in those locker rooms going back to Windsor with Akeem Alou and the Steve Downey situation. But I'll say this. I do remember the narrative in the paper and online was that, he was a bit of a troublemaker and which, looking back, if he was being hazed where he didn't want to get in the bathroom naked, it's just like, what? This narrative was out on this guy. So then other people had premeditated thoughts. Maybe Bill Peters had heard that, and that kind of spun him into thinking, oh, he's a troublemaker. All right. So he's already got that thought in his head, and then it fucking snowballs from there. So we're nipping it in the butt now, and it's about time. And I think it's we can move on. And like you said, RA, these situations suck, and we'd rather be talking about the positive than the negatives.
Absolutely.